And Elena, Renee and I will monitor the chat and the Q&A.
Okay.
So don't feel like you need to monitor that because we can go ahead and do that.
Okay.
Is
Perfect.
it we usually will stop the presenter if there's any, hopefully at a good stopping point, if there are any Q&As during the presentation. Is that okay with you, or would you prefer to save all questions until the end?
It's up to you. I think what happens sometimes is there's questions that come up early that get answered throughout the presentation. So obviously if people have questions right when they have a question, they should, maybe put it in chat and we could maybe save it for the end. But I don't know how you've done it in the past, but
Sure. I mean, we can still ask the question, and if you're like, oh, hey, this will be answered in a couple slides, then we can do it like that.
okay. Yeah.
Perfect. And to everyone who is joining us, hi, we'll get started in a couple minutes. We just want to wait till noon so we can make sure we have all the attendees who are coming today.
Have you ever used the whiteboard feature on Zoom? And it looks interesting. I don't know what that's about. Like, can you like write on it? That would be really
Yeah, actually, I have used it before.
Have you really?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So you can start drawing on there and see it.
I've done I accidentally have done I think 2 years ago it was not called AI, but it's basically when like the captions come up for you as you're talking, or like there's like a lag. I accidentally turned on like it like talks as it puts text up as you're talking, which obviously helps for presentations depending on the audience. But it started like showing up and I was like, what did I just do? But
it's like, Renee, remember when you would make like a gesture and then it would have like an emoji icon? You're like, I don't know why it's doing that. Yeah, like that.
I figured it out. I figured it out.
I remember at first you were panicked, like, what is happening?
And then I finally Googled it, so now I know how to control it.
Nice.
Okay, we'll give it just one more minute just to make sure that everyone can get in, because I'm sure some people are taking some time off for lunch real quick, but we want to make sure that you guys can get back to whatever you were doing as soon as possible, so we will just give it one more minute. Okay, I think we're good to get started. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to the Special Education Legal Clinic. My name is Renee Stromsky, and I am a special education attorney with Abner Weicker, or AW. I've got Danielle Randolph also from AW on the screen with me, and Elena Bowers, who is from the Ohio Treasurer's Office. AW is one of the 3 organizations that have collaborated to provide the Special Education Legal Clinic. The 3 organizations are AW, Disability Rights Ohio, and the Ohio Coalition for the Education of Children with Disabilities. As most of you know, we do workshops on a monthly basis, and that's usually the 3rd Monday of every month. Today's presentation, as you guys can hopefully see on the screen, will be about stable accounts, presented by Miss Elena Bowers. I'll introduce her again in just a minute. But first, I just wanted to say that this will be the last workshop in our transition series, and we will be beginning a new series very soon. The website will be updated with that information very soon, like I said. I'll drop that in the chat, or maybe Danielle can drop the link to the Special Education Legal Clinic in the chat. I think the chat should also be open for you guys if you have any questions. But in that chat is that link. You'll be able to see information about the workshops, registration for the workshops. If you'd like to view today's workshop recorded or other recorded past workshops, you can find that at the link. And there's also some valuable parent resources on that page as well. It's lawyersforstudents.com/legal clinic. And like I said, if you have any questions, you can drop them in either the Q&A in the chat, and we will either answer them live during the presentation. We might stop Elena and ask her to help with some of the questions. And then we may have some time at the end to ask additional questions. We do have to stop at 1 o'clock to begin our individual guidance sessions. And if you want to sign up for one of those as well, you can use the link, which I just saw went through in that chat. I think that's everything though. So without any further ado, I'll introduce Elena, who has generously offered to provide our workshop today on stable accounts.
Sounds good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here today. I was actually with, our program was with Disability Rights of Ohio last summer at their staff meeting. So it was great to meet some folks there and learn about the work that they're doing. So anyone that's on the webinar that's heard of Stable Account before, has ever told a family or individual about Stable Account, thank you. We are an awesome program. We're administered by the Ohio Treasurer's Office, but we are also a national program, which we're also very proud about as well. So we're part of the ABLE community on the national scale, but our work is very specific to the state of Ohio and the great groups that they serve as well. So we've connected with some school districts, medical groups, the County Board of DD groups across the state. Obviously, there's 88 of those. They do great work with connecting families and individuals with services and benefits and information about those resources as well. So we are connected with those groups, but very specifically to estate planning and guardianship and special needs trusts. This is another area that we are also connected with as well. Those groups do a great job at connecting families with resources as well, and they're advocates for our program, which we'll talk a little bit about as well. So thank you again. We'll go ahead and get started. And thumbs up so you can see my screen just so that I don't have to share it again. Yes. Okay, good. Awesome. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, so a little bit about the history of what Stable Account is. As I mentioned, we are a national program. So the Achieving a Better Life Experience Act was passed back in 2014. And this allows all states to implement an ABLE program. So Ohio's ABLE program is called Stable Accounts. So currently there's about 49 ABLE programs across the country. We were the first state to launch an ABLE program. And the reason this is created or was created back in 2014 is that currently individuals that have a disability, if they're receiving benefits such as SSI or Medicaid or other means tested benefits, obviously there are specific qualifications to go on those benefits. There is a massive restriction on their allowance of being able to save and invest their money. So if they're receiving SSI, they cannot have more than $2,000 at any time to their name. So if they're receiving SSI on a monthly basis, they're not allowed to roll that money over. They have to spend down that money. And this has been in law since, 70s, 80s, 90s. That amount has not gone up. So over 10 years of grassroots efforts, legislative work, going down to DC and campaigning to have something change, that was a result of the ABLE Act. It was an incredible act that was passed by Congress, and that allowed, as I mentioned, all states to create an ABLE program. So an ABLE account is a savings and investment account that individuals can put their money into, and it won't basically prevent them from having eligibility for SSI or Medicaid. As long as those funds are going into that ABLE account, they can still be on those benefits that we commonly refer to as SSI or Medicaid. Those are the most two common benefits that we mention. Currently, ABLE accounts are also very similar to different types of products that a lot of families and individuals see as well. So a 529 college savings plan is another program that is administered by the state. So if families have an existing college savings plan, they can actually roll over those funds into an ABLE account or a stable account. And then those funds can be used on not only education, but other types of qualified disability expenses, which we'll talk about. Also very similar to a checking account. So the ABLE account is an existing financial account. You can contribute money into the account. You can take money out of the account and use the funds on qualified disability expenses. And then also our third product, which I'm sure a lot of people on the call know what this is a special needs trust. So as I mentioned, we've worked with some awesome special needs trust attorney across the state that really specialize in estate planning, guardianship planning, what it means to go through the probate court, guardianship court, and to, kind of take over the role of caring for someone with a disability or some type of health issue. There's a lot of, rules surrounding that, as I'm sure everyone knows. But we always advocate for special needs trust as well, because stable account and special needs trust, those two products go very well together, which we'll talk about as well. So stable accounts is Ohio's ABLE program. As I mentioned, we are a national program. We were the first state to create an ABLE program back in 2016. We just surpassed, I think we're actually close to surpassing 40,000 accounts, which is incredible. But as I mentioned, there's other ABLE programs across the state that are administered by the states. So we work closely with the ABLE programs across the country. Obviously, all ABLE plans have the same goal, and that is empowering those individuals, those families, those individuals living with a disability to, have that goal that they can, save towards, or feel empowered to take on employment and still keep their benefits, because their benefits are important to them for whatever reason that is. We are the first and the most used ABLE plan in the country, and our outreach, our advocacy, we're really kind of specific to the state of Ohio. And Ohio is amazing. Ohio is home to so many great disability support groups, very specific disability support groups like Down Syndrome Association of Central Ohio, Autism Society of Akron, and then, as I mentioned, a lot of school districts, a lot of employment groups, and then, of course, the state agencies that are there to really provide support to those families as well. So we're just part of that role. We're part of that community, and we are a really great resource for families and individuals to know about if they want to save for their future. So the benefits of having a stable account is that ownership, the self-esteem, and the financial independence. So a lot of account holders that we've been able to meet over the years, they're able to go to our website, they're able to open the account themselves, and they're able to contribute their own money, whether it's coming from mom or dad, or coming from their paycheck, or coming from SSI. They can put that money into their own stable account and then use those funds on qualified disability expenses. It helps families and individuals with financial planning, being able to really plan out long-term savings and goals. And the really great unique thing about this program that's very different than other types of programs or plans or, like a special needs trust, is that the account is owned by the individual living with the disability. There's a lot of power behind that. There's a lot of empowerment behind that as well. And that allows that individual to rely on those funds down the road or for day-to-day expenses as well. It eliminates that spend down fear. So as I mentioned, if you're on SSI, you have to be really mindful of your savings each month. And if you're working, whether it's part-time or full-time, you have to be really mindful of your hours and what you're allowed to make each hour. And obviously minimum wage is going up, which is great. And a lot of individuals are able to take on new opportunities with employment. So we're proud to say that you can work and you can also have a stable account. Those two go hand in hand together. So it allows those individuals to really start thinking about their financial future and to rely on the program to, fuel their financial dreams, and to also allow families to have the peace of mind as well. This is Kyle McKay, and my screen is covering Carrie's face, but I don't know if you can see Carrie here, but Carrie is she is the CEO of the Down Syndrome Association of Central Ohio, and Kyle is their staff photographer. And he is not only their staff photographer, he's the contractor there that works events and is employed there, but he also has his own photography business. So he's an entrepreneur and he's working and he has a stable account. And when I met him last spring, he was really excited to take our pictures and tell me all about a stable account. And so it just goes to show that somebody, that's Kyle. He's an adult. He's working. He's proud to work. He's able to have that account himself, manage that account himself. And he's, part of the community of DeSaco right here in Central Ohio. And he's doing really awesome work and a proud account holder. So a lot of situations are exactly like Kyle's, but also there are some situations where we know where, families might have to come in at some point and have access to the account. Or if, mom and dad have a child with a disability, they might set up the account for their child. And down the road, after that child turns 18, they might still need to take over the account. They might still need to be the one that is managing the funds, spending the funds, and taking care of their child, which we'll talk a little bit about. But the coolest thing that we've seen is just that there's so many account holders that are proud to be account holders and are able to have the account exactly in their name to use the funds to help their life to be better. So eligibility, and this is for all ABLE programs across the country, for stable account, of course, as well. There's two pieces with eligibility. The first piece is that if the individual is living with the disability, the diagnosis, or the disorder, and that occurred before they turned 26. So you don't have to be below 26 to have a stable account. You just have to have been diagnosed or born with the disability before you were 26. So we have account holders that are well into their 60s and their 70s because they were born or they were diagnosed with a disability before they turned 26. The second piece for eligibility is if that disability, that diagnosis, that disorder also allows you to be eligible to receive SSI or SSDI. So account holders that are on SSI or SSDI, that is administered by the Social Security Administration. It's a federal program. The process of going through that is completely separate from our office. But if you're on those benefits, as I mentioned, you do have to be mindful of your monthly spending and your monthly resource limit is what they refer to it as. So you don't have to be on those benefits to have a stable account, but the benefit is that if you are on those benefits, it's really important to have a stable account so that you can protect your funds from losing your eligibility for SSI or SSDI. Medicaid is another one of those means tested benefits that I mentioned earlier. Medicaid is obviously administered by the Ohio Medicaid office. Again, that's separate from the Ohio Treasurer's Office. But if you're on Medicaid, that is a separate process to go through eligibility to get on Medicaid and to remain on Medicaid. I know they look at your income. And then I know there's other things that they might look at as well. It's a kind of a case-by-case situation. But if you're on Medicaid, it's also important to be aware of stable account as well, because you can still be on Medicaid and have a stable account as long as you're putting your additional funds into the stable account. Those funds are completely protected as well. The Social Security Administration website obviously is the place that you would receive information about getting on those benefits. They also have information on there about self-certification. So that allows somebody that might not really quite know if their diagnosis or their disorder would qualify them for not only benefits, but a stable account as well. Our website also has an eligibility quiz as well. We don't require you to send in any information about your disorder, your diagnosis at all. But I know that for SSI, getting on those benefits, that's a whole different process with that. It's a lengthy process to get on those benefits. But for stable accounts, we really just have these two pieces. But if you need more information about self-certification and eligibility quiz, that's on our website as well. Also on our website is the only place that you can open account. So you can't go to a bank. That's one of our biggest questions from families. Our website is basically the direct portal to viewing your account and to viewing your contributions. Our portal is very accessibly friendly. It has a great dashboard that shows exactly how everything is managed. But in addition to our online enrollment, we do have customer service on the phone at all times. So if you ever have a question about your account or you're on the enrollment page and you're really confused about a certain process, or if you're just calling to get information about your balance, we do have a customer service group as well that can be reached over the phone. The phone number is the very last slide. But we also have a paper enrollment process as well. So if you wanted to send in your paper enrollment forms, you can do that as well. We advocate for online enrollment because it takes less than 10 minutes, which is very quick compared to some other things, like trying to get information about benefits. So we're really proud of that. Obviously, if you have all the correct information to verify your identity, it takes less than 10 minutes. And then we have this on here. We require a 25 minimum opening deposit that jumpstarts the account. As soon as the money is in the account, your account is ready to go. But as of April 2024, our office actually launched a new incentive where if you are a new Ohioan that opens an account, you still are required to put at least $25 in the account, but after the first month, that $25 is going to be given back to you. So it's sort of like a match incentive. And that $25 that is given back to you could, potentially cover the account fee for the year. It's just an incentive program that we wanted to launch for new Ohioans that join the program as well. So enrollment can be completed, as I mentioned earlier with Kyle's story, by the individual with the disability. So the account holder, the beneficiary on the account, is the person with the disability that allows them to be eligible. In a lot of cases, though, an authorized legal representative would need to come in and open the account for their loved one, or if they're a guardian and they're taking care of somebody, they would have to provide their qualifications and then open the account for them. So this is just a list of what we have seen in the past or what would qualify someone to be an ALR. Obviously, this is just sort of a short list of that. But if you are a parent and you have someone who is your daughter is 12 years old and she has a disability, you would have to open the account for her. By the time that she's 18 years old, that account could then be transferred to her name. But if in the situation that she would still need to manage, or she would still need assistance managing the account, then the parents would still be the ALR over the account as well. There is great information on our website about what it takes to be an ALR, what's required when you open the account for the enrollment process as well. But it goes through the identity checklist as well as if you were trying to open the account just for yourself. So information on our website about the enrollment process as well. Same process as you would go to stableaccount.com, but if you do need the paper process, there's the forms online that you can print off as well.
Hey, Elena, there's a question from the chat, and you might be getting to this. I saw that there was the $25 requirement for deposit, and there was a question whether there were any annual fees or other account fees that were associated.
Yes, so I am getting to the account fees.
Okay.
It's one of the very last slides. But for Ohioans, it is $15 per year, and then there's asset-based fees, which I don't have the specific number, but I'm getting to that slide. So good question. So that $25 match incentive that we launched this month, that $25 essentially could cover somebody's annual fees for the year. Obviously, it would cover, all of it, and then you'd have some left over as well. But yes, for Ohioans, the annual fee, which we lowered in 2024, is now $15 per year.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Of course. I don't know if this slide is applicable to this audience, but it also is good to mention just because this program also is so important to kind of look at the different stages of somebody's life. So in a lot of cases, if parents, they have a child with a disability and they're, 4 years old and they get the diagnosis, at some point along the way, we hope that they hear what stable account is, whether that's through their school, whether that's through, a state agency, or maybe they just join a random webinar that I'm doing one day. But we hope that at some point along the way, that child's life, that they know what stable account is, because there's different stages of that person's life that they have to deal with new situations and figure out schooling, figure out residential services, figure out medical care. And we're just part of that piece of their life that's going to improve it and make it better. But we also work a lot with organizational ALRs. So those are the group home settings, or the residential homes that are taking care of multiple individuals. And we see that a lot in the adult disability care situation. So there are organizations in the state of Ohio that take care of adults with disabilities. And they also can manage multiple SABLE accounts as well. So we do some great outreach with those groups as well. I know that parents might be thinking about that, even if their child's young, but then of course, when their loved one or their child is, you know, in their late 30s, they might start thinking about long-term care at some point along the way. So we like to mention as well that not only can the parent manage the account, but if they transition to a residential home or some type of care center, that the care center can also have access and manage the account as well. So that's some more specific outreach that we've done in the past, but we do identify some of those larger groups as well. So once the account is created, there are a few different ways that you can fund the account. Very simple process. Once you log into your portal, you're going to see ways you can contribute funds into the account. So you can transfer funds out of an existing checking or savings account through an EFT transfer, just as you would, you know, as you're at your normal bank. You can mail in a check, and our account manager would deposit that for you. And then our third piece is our direct deposit piece. So if you are receiving SSI each month, that's usually done through electronic transfer, like a direct deposit, and that's through the Social Security Administration. So if you're receiving SSI each month, you can actually redirect your SSI funds to go right into your SABLE account. That is an update that we launched as of June. In addition to the SSI direct deposit, we also advocate for the payroll direct deposit. So a lot of our account holders in the past have been hesitant to work or take on new employment or exceed, you know, some hours each week because they didn't want to go over their limits. But we know a lot of account holders that are working, they're proud to work, and they can actually have their paycheck go right into their SABLE account. So that is done through the direct deposit piece, just like any normal direct deposit piece would be set up. I think I actually have no, I don't have a picture of it, but you would basically go to your online portal, you would print out your direct deposit information, and then you would give that to your HR team, and then they would set that up directly. So that's another way that individuals who are working can efficiently have access to their funds much more easier than having to transfer out. So the limits for 2024 went up a little bit. This is for all ABLE programs across the country. So if you are creating your accounts and you just want to deposit directly into the account and max out for the general contribution, that is $18,000. So that is from all sources. So that is if you are working, if mom and dad are giving you money, if you're given a gift, or if that's part of your SSI funds. You can contribute $18,000 for 2024 from all sources. If you are working, though, you can do that $18,000 plus any wages you receive, which would up to additional $14,580. So that would max out the account at $32,580. So that allows us individuals to take advantage of the general contribution amount of $18,000. But if they're working, they're obviously bringing in more money each month, which is wonderful. And they can put those additional funds into the SABLE account. Any funds that are contributed into the SABLE accounts are completely protected from SSI and Medicaid. They do not look at the funds in the SABLE account and think you have way too much money, you're over limit, we're gonna take away your benefits. That's why SABLE account exists. It's a protected account from losing your benefits. So for 2024, the general contribution is $18,000, but a lot of our account holders created an account as soon as we were started in 2016. So Travis is an employee at the Pickaway County Board of DD. He's been working there for years. He's had a SABLE account since, honestly, I think the first week we launched, he was one of our first Ohioans to open an account. And he maxes out his account every single year. So over time, he's going to have a lot of money in that account. And the account itself also has the opportunity to have investments as well. So you have the opportunity to also have additional funds as well. There is a lifetime balance limit of $541,000. We haven't had anybody reach that yet, but I'm sure over time that somebody will reach that, which is wonderful. And then our portal, the dashboard, will reject excessive contributions. So if you're worried about having your paycheck linked directly to the account and you're wondering, oh, am I, close to the yearly annual limit? It'll tell you exactly where you are at with contributions for the year. And this is our account cost page. So this is what I mentioned earlier. We did lower our fees for 2024. We are one of the lowest cost programs in the whole country. I mentioned that we are a national program, so we do have information here about other states. So we did lower our other state costs as well. So it's $15 per year for Ohio residents. The $375 is charged to the account quarterly, so that's just taken out directly with whatever balance is in the accounts. And then the asset-based fees are listed here as well. So very minimal cost for owning the Sable account. One of the sources, as I mentioned, is gifting. So if somebody has an existing Sable account and they're, somebody wants to give them money just directly, whether they're, they're graduating or they just, grandma wants to give somebody money instead of cash, you can actually have somebody contribute gifting into your Sable accounts. So as I mentioned, the general contribution is from all sources. So that gifting page would be considered a source as well. So as long as the gift that somebody's giving you is below that contribution amount, it's protected and it's yours to be used on qualified disability expenses.
Hey, Elena, we do have a couple questions if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Okay, so first, someone had asked if the direct deposits are mandatory. I heard you say to advocate for them, but wanted to make sure, or wanted to ask if they were mandatory for the SSI deposit. So is there a mandatory SSI deposit for the account?
There is not. You do not have to put your SSI funds into the Sable account.
Okay. Okay.
It's optional to put your SSI funds into the Sable account. Once SSI funds are directly deposited into a Sable account, they're technically Sable account funds. You have to be really mindful of your spending, which we'll talk about. I think it's the next slide about how to track your expenses. But we do mention that we do have, as of this summer, the update to have your SSI be directly deposited into your Sable account so you don't have to transfer out and transfer in. So it's just an optional.
Okay, and then one more question. Someone had asked, once the account is created, where do they find the account information for direct deposit?
So it is I thought I had it on this slide, but once you sign into your Sable account portal, there will be almost like a little widget on your dashboard about direct deposit. So once you click into that, it'll actually show a page of your account number and your routing number. And there's an option to print that page off. And then you can take that to your HR team and your HR team can set that up for you. So it's very similar to how you set up your direct deposit when you start a job. It's just that this is a new a new banking option that you would just provide to them. And then you can also, depending on how your HR is structured, I work for the state of Ohio and I have a percentage of my paycheck going into 2 different accounts. So you can actually set up to have either all of your paycheck go in your Sable account or just a percentage as well.
All right, that's all for now. Thank you.
Awesome. Of course. All right. So as I mentioned, this program is a savings and investment account. So the way that it's set up is that as soon as you create your account and you make contributions, the system will ask you how you want to disperse those funds every time you make a contribution. So there are different investment options, but in general, there's also a bank safe option as well. So the bank safe option is what we like to call just a super savings account. It's getting about a 5% return right now. 75% of our account holders have all of their funds in the bank safe option, but a lot of our account holders also choose from different investment options as well. So there's different for Vanguard mutual funds. Any returns that you might receive on the account don't count towards your general contribution for the year. A lot of information on our website about the investment options as well. We do encourage families, and when we do connect with special needs trust attorneys and estate planners and financial planners, we do encourage them to learn more about these options. Obviously, the Ohio Treasurer's Office and definitely not me would ever give investment advice, but we do encourage you to kind of look into this on your own, because it is another way that you can have additional savings and funds for long-term goals as well. So on my screen, this looks kind of wonky, but hopefully you can see that this is different, the different Vanguard funds as well. throughout the time that you have your account, you can also change the way that your funds are dispersed as well. So if you have all of your funds in a certain mutual fund and you decide, I want to take that out and put it in a bank safe option, you can actually choose to remove those funds and change the way that they're dispersed as well. So there's information on the portal as well about that. All right, the most important slide and most biggest question we ever get is, well, what can I use my stable account funds on? And I've been saying this whole time about qualified disability expenses. So this is a term that all ABLE programs use as well. And really what we always say is that the expense must relate to the disability and help maintain, improve health, independence, and quality of life. That sentence is very broad for a reason, but we like to just kind of tether it back to these big icons. And what are those big expenses that are going to improve someone's life? Housing and rent, basic living expenses, your AEP bill, your transportation, your health and wellness, legal fees, education. But the biggest question we get is, well, can we use it on vacations? Well, of course you can. If you're putting your paycheck in your stable account, you should be able to use those funds from your work on things that are going to make your life better. So a lot of our account holders use them on Cedar Point tickets and vacations, or if they live in a group home setting and the group home's taking a field trip to the zoo for the day, they can use their stable account funds on a ticket to the zoo. But a lot of these are day-to-day expenses as well. So we have a way that you can also use your stable account funds on day-to-day expenses. But a lot of families that open these accounts use it as a safety net for long-term goals. So they put their money in each year, they might max out each year. And by the time that their child is 18 years old, they could have close to $60,000 in that account. And those funds can be used on possibly, residential setting down the road, or, big expenses like housing or rent or assistive technology. So really anything that is going to improve the life is what you should be using your stable account funds on. And we have some great ways to track your expenses. Because the stable account funds are to be used on those qualified disability expenses, it is important to be mindful of where your money is going. So we do have a great way that you can track your expenses. We do have a Visa card that is the easiest way you can use your funds on day-to-day expenses. It's a loadable card. So it's not directly linked to the stable accounts. So if you've got $60,000 in that account, you can actually transfer over $200 on the loadable card. And once that $200 on the Visa card, those funds can be used on day-to-day expenses like at Walgreens or at Cedar Point or making online purchases. It's the easiest way that you can use your funds that day, and you can also track your expenses on the back end as well. We also have other ways you can use your funds. You can obviously pay a bill with a third-party check. Our account manager would send you a check, and then you could use that check to to pay for a bill. And then, of course, you can also transfer money out of the account into an external personal or checking and savings account. Because this program and all ABLE programs are overseen by the IRS actually is the one that assigns the contribution amounts each year. It's important to be mindful that at any point, you could be audited. If they do see that you made an expense somewhere and they think that that's not a qualified disability expense, you could be subject to a fine for that expense. We've never had anybody been audited in the history of our program, but it is important to mention that if you are overseeing a stable account on behalf of somebody else, if you're a rep payee, if you are a guardian, if you're a mother and your child's over the age of 18, just be mindful of your spending and keep track just in case you would need to keep record of those expenses. So special needs trusts, as I mentioned, our program loves the special needs trust attorneys across the state of Ohio. We've been able to connect with some great ones. They do great work and they really advocate for our program as well, which is great. Special needs trusts, as I'm sure everyone knows on this call, is set up by the attorney group, and that is done privately. And there's a fee associated with that for them to manage the account. But the special needs trust is very complementary towards stable accounts. So there's a lot of different tools and different ways that you can spend money from a stable account, as I mentioned. Obviously, the stable account can be created and managed that day by the person with the disability or the family that is having the account for their loved one. There's broader spending power. You can use as funds, on day-to-day expenses. There's no federal or state income tax on the earnings, state tax deductions for stable account contributions. And then the best thing about stable account, obviously, is just it's easier to manage to the day-to-day spending as well. But special needs trusts also don't have limits. They can accept unlimited cash and non-cash assets. And then, of course, there's different tax rules around it as well. I can email this slide deck out just for everyone on the webinar to have this, because this link takes you to a YouTube video that was done by one of our attorneys that we work with. He's actually on one of our advisory board. And it's just a great video on estate planning, special needs trust, and they talk a little bit about stable account as well, just because a lot of the special needs trust attorneys make a point to mention how they can be used in different ways. So we've seen a lot of families, they have a child with a disability, and maybe by the time that they're 18 years old, at some point along the way, they've created a special needs trust for their child. And then they decide, well, let's also add in a stable account where you can, take money out of the special needs trust and put it in a stable account. And then the money in the stable account can be used on day-to-day expenses. So there's different ways you can use it. And we've seen different cases, but they're great. We really advocate for them as well. Another question we get is, what happens to the funds when an account holder passes away? So if an account holder passes away, the account would then pass on to the account holder's estate. The estate administrator would notify our customer service group so they can get access to the accounts, like statements, information, account numbers. Stable account is an asset. But if the account holder does not have a will, then the account would then go through the normal probate process. So that obviously is done completely separate from our office's responsibilities. But in a lot of situations, if mom and dad are managing the stable account and their child passes away, then they would be the ones that would have access to the estate and would have to be able to use those funds. Something to be very mindful of is the Medicaid payback process. So Ohio Medicaid, as I'm sure most people are aware of this, they have something called estate recovery. So if somebody is receiving Medicaid services during their time, they pass away, they could be subject to a Medicaid estate recovery. They call it payback, clawback. I think every state has its own terminology for it, but basically what it is Medicaid looks at the individual, how much they were receiving from Medicaid services, and then they might put a claim on their estate. So stable account is part of that estate. It is an asset, but Medicaid has some kind of hoops to jump through before they can get access to stable account funds. So currently, if somebody has a stable account and they pass away, the person that would take over the estate, so let's say mom takes over the stable account, she can use the funds in the stable account on a lot of things to take care of the estate, like outstanding bills. You can deduct Medicaid buy-in premiums that you paid. You can pay for funeral expenses, burial expenses. You can take care of the estate. As soon as those expenses are paid, that is when Medicaid could put a claim on the funds left over in the account. So we say that, this is not they will, but they could. And this is a process that might take some time. I think they have up to a year to put a claim on the funds in the stable account. But I will say that there are a lot of protections put in place. So Medicaid can only look at the stable account as a whole and see the timeline of when they were giving the person services. I know that there are some states that have successfully been able to pass legislation, or they're working on legislation to have stable account be completely protected from Medicaid estate recovery. Ohio has not done that yet, but there has been early talks about doing that. But we do like to mention that if an account holder is ever receiving Medicaid, that they could be subject to the estate recovery payback. So, and then our newest slide that we just had to put in here last week is protecting the account. So if you're an authorized legal representative, so if you are, an organization or a guardian or a rep payee or a mom, and you're overseeing someone's account, just like every other banking account and email account and everything that we keep getting notifications about, protect your account. So our program has some updates, security updates to make sure that the right person is getting access to those funds. So we just set up a multi-factor authentication process. Just some, steps to monitor the account on a regular basis. Obviously, if someone is calling in and saying that they're trying to get access to someone's account, that there's, security steps to put in place as well. But we're really making sure that those account holders are aware that they need to protect their account as well. So we're really upping our security on the back end and making sure that people are not taken advantage of and that they are making sure that their account is protected as well. So this is a new slide that we put in. It's probably the most important slide for 2024, but it's just another way that we're just protecting the program and making sure that our program is easy for everyone to use and especially with opening the account and managing the account as well. And here is our customer service number. So this is the great number that allows any account holder to get information about their accounts. Our website has so much more that I wasn't able to mention. As I mentioned, we're with the Treasurer's Office, so we've been able to do some great social media and testimonial pieces with the program as well. So we have a link to that on our website as well. And then last summer, we did a 2-minute overview video with one of our interns we had, and that's right on our homepage as well. So some great resources, some links to the Social Security Administration, and then the ABLE National Resource Center and ABLE Today are national groups that have so many resources about this program. They connect with national groups, national disability groups. They're doing webinars all the time. And so we're really proud to partner with them and just put their information on our website as well. So be sure to check that out as well. And I would love to open this up for questions if there's anything that I miss. And I'm not able to see the chat. I keep trying to come up and feel free to just let me know what the questions are.
I will. Yeah, we
Okay.
have two right now. So the first one is 529 accounts are viewed as an investment on the FAFSA. Looks like ABLE account is not. Can you talk a little bit about the pros and cons of rolling over a 529 account to an ABLE account?
Sure. So currently, if somebody has a 529 college savings plan and the funds are not used towards education or expenses towards the education, I know you can use it on housing or a dormitory. But if families decide the funds in the 529 plan that we created for a child is not best utilized for them to go to college or some type of education, and they roll the funds over in a stable account, the biggest benefit is that those funds can then be used on not only education, but qualified disability expenses. So that is the biggest pro that we always say. I don't think that there's any tax limitations with it. I think that if you roll over funds into another 529 plan, or if you roll over funds into, another sibling's 529 plans, I don't think there's any tax implications. Cons, I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure about what is listed on the FAFSA website. But we just mentioned that anyone that has a current 529 plan, college savings plan, that they are able to roll it over in the stable accounts. Now, obviously, the funds that are in a 529 college savings plan are probably, I would imagine, larger than the annual contribution. So that's another thing you have to be mindful of as well. So if you're rolling funds over for 2024, you have to obviously be within that $18,000 limit. So that's where a con might come in. But other than that, that's really all our program does talk about. But I think that there probably is more information online about rolling over those funds to a stable account or any ABLE account across the country.
Okay. And then once they have an account open, is there a separate website for the stable card and one for the actual account?
Yes. So once you create your stable account, there is going to be another widget on your dashboard about the Visa card. So it is a separate login, and then they would actually mail you the Visa card, and then the Visa card would be set up obviously in the individual's name. But it is a separate login, and that is managed by TrueLink, and then our account manager is Vestwell.
Okay, so after they have an account open, it still is two separate logins.
Yes, and it's completely optional. You don't have to have a Visa card. You would have to just initiate the setup of the card, and then they would mail the card to you.
Gotcha. Okay. Next question. This individual is working with a parent where English is not their first language, and he or she is having a hard time understanding the stable account. Is there somebody that they could talk to that could break it down for them? Like, do you have individuals that you work with that speak different languages than English, perhaps?
That is a good question. I know we do have on when you call our customer service line, there is assistance with Spanish. In terms of other language, I know that Vestwell is trying to work on providing resources for other languages. And then additional to that, if there is somebody that is hard of hearing, we do have, it's a separate, I've seen it before. It's like a video call where somebody is able to do ASL as well. So there are options when you do call. In terms of very specific different languages, I'm not sure about that though. But if you do need us to set up something with our customer service call center, you can also email this team at stableaccount.com, or when I send this slide deck out, you'll have my email address if you want to forward that out. You can always email directly to me, and we could possibly get on the phone with the family and just figure out the best way to have somebody from our call center get in touch with you. Just because I don't exactly know the situation, but our call center has dealt with that before in the past. So.
Okay, yeah, and someone had suggested maybe using Google Translate, like if there's some way for them to translate information to their, preferred language. I don't know if that's an option.
Yeah, that would definitely be good, an option.
Okay. Next question. Any idea how long it might take to get a third-party check from a stable account?
Yes, so I would say it takes about 5 days for them to issue the check. So the way that and this is also for the Visa card as well. So if you are transferring money out of the account onto the loadable Visa card, because this is a savings and investment account, you're basically doing a sale of funds. So it takes about 3 to 5 days for the funds from the stable account to show up on the Visa card. Obviously, once the funds are on the Visa card, they can be used same day. But if you're taking funds out of the account and putting them onto a check, and then they would initiate that mailing to you, it takes about the same 3 to 5 days. And then obviously 3 to 5 days after that, depending on how fast the mail can get to you. But it takes about 3 to 5 days for a transfer to be initiated, for the funds to be taken out of the account.
Okay, so it sounded like you had said if somebody has like more questions, would they email you directly or they email the email address that's on the customer service page?
So this can you see this slide?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
So this slide, this email address, it does go to our team, but I would definitely email me directly if you do have more questions. And when I do email this out, I know that I have Mark's email address, so I can always, I don't know if it's easier if I can email both of you, and they can have this slide deck, and then they would have my email address as well.
Yeah, if you want to email us the slides, we can get it over to Laura, who I'm sure has the email addresses for all the participants today.
Okay.
And I have your email, Elena, I believe. Do you want me to drop it in the chat?
Yes, that'd be wonderful. Yep. Perfect. Oh, now I see the chat. Okay, here we go. Awesome. I saw it at the beginning and then it went away. So, okay. Yeah, perfect. Yeah, that's my email address there. Our team email address obviously works as well, but there's other people that manage that too. So, but I can definitely email our slide deck out. We're hopefully going to have our slide deck on our website at some point. We're just updating our backend links, but the slide deck, I can email that out as well.
Okay, any other questions that anybody has while we still have Elena?
We'll wait a minute for some questions to come in, but while we do that, I just wanted to say that I wanted to say thank you, Elena, for this presentation. I know at least for me, I learned a lot, and I'm seeing a lot of thank yous in the chat as well. This was truly so helpful, I'm sure, to a lot of people. We had a lot of participants today, and I'm just grateful you were able to share your time with us today. So thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, just feel free to email me if any follow-up comes in. and check out our website, and I'll send the slide deck out.
That
Okay,
sounds
and then
great.
Renee, before people log off, do you want to share about
Yes.
the conference?
Yes, I was gonna say, before we log off, I just wanted to share one more link in the chat. AW is having a student rights conference in July. That'll go on July 18th and 19th. It'll be held virtually and in person in Columbus, Ohio.
And
as well as
Michigan. I know this
Michigan,
is an
yes. I was
Ohio
gonna say,
presentation, but Michigan too.
I think Southfield, Michigan, but I'm not too, somewhere in the Detroit area. I'm sorry
Yes.
for if anyone in Michigan's from here, but we will have, I sent the link, so there's some information on the conference schedule, but there will be some really awesome presentations, both special education and general education related, including some post-grad transition planning. So if you guys want to take a look at that and sign up, that would be great. But otherwise, thank you guys for joining us today. This will be available hopefully within the next few days online, and we hope to see you next month.
Thanks, Elena. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.